Yo, what's up, everybody? Rage Cage 20 here. And I gotta tell you something. I woke up this morning after 3 days of intense work, talking some of the craziest days of the year, busting ass, making fucking G's. And I'm sore as fuck. I might actually feel pretty good now. That might be pain meds, I don't know. But I woke up completely sore and stiff, and I was just like, you know what I want to do today? I want to relax. And how do I want to kick off relaxing? I want to listen to a Mr. Ballen story. That's what the fuck I want to do. So that's what we're going to do today. We have Feral People Hunt Teen Hiker, which sounds exciting. The stuff that hides out in the wilderness is absolutely fascinating, and you should be prepared and ready for that shit at all times. Now, I don't know. I mean, 35-ish minutes, probably around a total like 30-minute story. I can't foresee how this one's gonna go, but Ballen's really good at balling out. He's really good at switching up the story, making you think it's gonna go one way with the title, mislead you with that title, and then hook it the other direction. And also, I'm really good at coming up with more advanced stories than what actually happened. The one time I was correct, though. Just putting that one out there. One time, your boy was correct. Don't get used to it, though. I'm going to come up with the best fucking alternative storylines you've ever seen. I'm also going to puck a fuzz ton. Yeah, that would be how you switch that. Pause a fuck ton. Is what I'm gonna do. Either one of the way you pronounce that, whatever way you want to pronounce it, I'm gonna do one of those. So I'm probably gonna be pausing the fuckload because I have colorful little commentary that I like to interject because I'm that person. I usually don't talk during a movie, to be fair, you know, but I like pretty much my version of listening to these stories is I'm the person who's talking during the movie and whatnot. Sorry, it's just gonna happen. Come on, Mr. Ballen, blow my mind again with an amazing story. Let's fucking get it in.
In 2008, a teenager was hiking.
I forgot I didn't turn this one down. Jesus. All right, sorry. Give me that. Oh, wrong one. Give me that again, brother. My bad.
In 2008,
Better.
A teenager was hiking through a very dense forest in Northern California when he decided to stop and make camp for the night. He walked several hundred feet off the main trail into the forest where he found a small clearing, and there he would set up his tent and he would climb inside and go to sleep. A few hours later, he would wake up because he thought he heard something outside of his tent. But there were no windows on his tent and it was totally pitch black out.
Now, this is how this one happens. Every single one of these kind of videos, a little bit better, lighting's a little off. Every single one of these kind of went hiking videos always it happens the same way, like every single time. The people will find a clearing, which I mean makes sense because like it's both good and bad because like it's a clearing. That's where people are probably gonna be looking for someone camping and whatnot. But you know, it's harder to pinch up a campsite around a clutter of trees and whatnot, and like have a fire and be able to cook food and stuff like that without burning everything down. So you kind of need to find a clearing. But if you just like had your tent like in a cluster of trees, it'd be harder to find. However, it would be harder. Like people can sneak up on you easier at the same time. So it's like clearing is a good thing and also like a bad thing at the same time. Easier to find, but also easier to defend. But in these situations, someone's always finding that person in the tent. They wake up hearing noises at night. Like I feel like more people should have been watching these stories. If more people watched these stories when they decide to go out hiking through the woods, random locations and setting up tents and stuff like that, then like they could prepare, you know, like set up ambush points, like set up a defensive perimeter that like I don't know, like some kind of like net trap that will capture something crazy coming, you know what I mean? give you some time to prepare. Like, people need to be ready for this scenario because it always happens when they're sleeping, and they always hear a sound like, oh fuck, something's going on. Every time, man. Every time.
Sides, we can't see anything, and so he's just laying there listening, trying to discern what's going on outside. And as he's laying there, he hears it again, and it's the sound of footsteps slowly approaching his tent. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please hide a Bluetooth speaker in the like button's bedroom, and then proceed to play Siberian Husky screaming audio at full volume all night long. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
You're a little blurry today, Mr. Ballen. I understand sometimes, you know, get things set up and just, you missed a detail. Shit happens, I feel you. The people in white, or the feral people in white, or are they just white and chalky? I don't know. It's based on an unverified first-hand account by a Reddit user. The name has been changed. Fair enough. Now there was another one that was just like this unverified account. It was the forest, the bell in the forest one. That one was pretty terrifying. So like, it's a chance that these aren't real, but like, they're still very fascinating.
In 2007, the now famous cult classic movie Into the Wild was released to movie theaters for the first time. The movie, which is based on a true story, centers on the life of a young man named Christopher McCandless. In 1990, Christopher graduated from a really good school with honors, and by all accounts, he could have gone on to get a really good, high-paying job, but Christopher didn't want a job. He wanted freedom. And so, without telling his parents, because they would not have been happy about this idea, he gave away all of his possessions, he gave all his money to charity, and he headed off to Alaska to live off the grid by himself. He eventually would find this rusted out old city.
Alright, cool. So here's the thing about that. You could change your mind, right? You know what I mean? You could always change your mind. So chances are, don't give away all your money and possessions, just in case later in life you're like, you know what, never mind, maybe I get back on the grid, you know? Like, because like, you might be like 100% like guaranteed this is what I'm gonna do in life. Like, I don't want earthly possessions and stuff, I just want to go out and live in the wild for the rest of my days. Come like 10 years later, it's like, you know, maybe I don't. So like, maybe you just put your money aside somewhere and like give your possessions to someone to hold on to and whatnot. And so maybe one day if you change your mind, like, if you're still alive, if you're trying to live in the wild, like maybe you like, I don't know, have stuff when you come back. Just thought.
Bus in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness, and he would make this bus his shelter, and he would live inside of this bus for 113 days.
Oh, I thought he was gonna say years. I was like, I'm sorry.
Before he unfortunately died of starvation. While Christopher
You didn't plan that one out, dog? That was only like what, 3.5 months? Like, bruh, it didn't take you very long. The fuck y'all doing?
Christopher's story
Dumb
is
motherfucker.
obviously tragic. The movie about his life, Into the Wild, really focuses on Christopher's unrelenting spirit and his constant drive towards getting the thing he wants the most, which is freedom. And so at the end of this movie, the audience is left feeling not sad, but inspired. Inspired to take big risks in life and seek out adventure before it's too late. One audience member who was totally inspired by Christopher McCandless's life story was an 18-year-old young man named Matt Higgins who lived in Oregon. Matt was about to graduate high school, and unlike a lot of his peers, he had no idea what he should do after graduation, whether it was get a job or go to school. But after watching Into the Wild, a third option appeared to him, which was to head off into the wild, just like Christopher McCandless had done, except not permanently.
Okay. I'm not real fun about like that. Like, okay. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Cool. He said not permanently, which is also, like save your possessions. Don't be that crazy. But like, do it better though. Like, if you die of starvation, like you see that this dude's died of starvation, it's like maybe I have a clear, concise way to get food. Or have a reliable way to bring food with me long enough to get in and get out. Like be smarter. That'd be a good idea.
Matt quickly fell in love with this option. He viewed it as a chance to kind of take a break from reality and go find himself, and then at the end of his stint in the wild, he could come back and, get a job or go to school. And so Matt's official Into the Wild plan was that he would graduate in 2007, and then in the spring of 2008, he would hike the entirety of the California section of the infamously rugged and beautiful Pacific Crest Trail. And he would do this
that whole fucking trail. Yeah, you can see it right there. Base camp there, at the Mexican border, all the way up to the Oregon border, is almost 2,000 fucking miles. Were you planning on going the whole way? I didn't catch if he was planning to go the whole way. It sounded like he said he was planning on going the whole fucking way, which sounds like fun, but that's a several-month journey. And again, do you have plans on how you're going to feed yourself?
On his own. This section of the Pacific Crest Trail that he planned on hiking was roughly 1,700 miles long. It began on the border of Mexico and Southern California, and it wound its way north up to the border of Oregon. The trail cut through deserts and up and over mountains, and there was lots of dangerous wildlife to contend with.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there were many points along this trail where hikers were very isolated. They were not anywhere near civilization.
Right.
And so if anything were to happen to them, they'd be on their own.
You would probably also never be found. Second off here, as these always go, like I've said before, like how these stories always occur. He just mentioned, fucking Ballen here just mentioned right out the gate, dangerous wildlife that you're probably gonna have to contest with. You brought at least a rifle or some high-powered gun, right? Like you brought that, right? Like you don't tell me you went into this woods planning on hiking 2,000 miles of uncharted, well, technically uncharted, but untamed wilderness without some firepower, right? Or at least like some kind of, I don't know, action shovel that has like knives and swords and shit built into it, and like the edges are designed to kill. Like you at least brought some kind of weapon with you, right? Well, you goddamn, if I hear that you don't got a single fucking at least decently ranged weapon that's not like a knife or something, I swear to fuck, man, it's gonna be a long story for you, because I'm gonna be saying how much of a dumb motherfucker you are throughout this entire thing. Anyways, continuing.
And so naturally, this hike was not a beginner hike. However, Matt was not a beginner hiker. He had grown up hiking and camping all over Oregon and the western United States.
Right.
He had spent time in totally well-marked and safe areas, and he had also spent time hiking around very dangerous.
That photo. I don't think this part of the photo, that looks pretty photoshopped in there. But yeah, okay, good. You got some experience. Okay, good.
Where there were cougars and bears and unmarked cliffs everywhere. And so Matt felt like, with his experience in the outdoors, he was perfectly suited to take on this big of an adventure. And in many ways, that was true.
Right.
However, something was going to happen to him while he was out on the Pacific Crest Trail that no amount of hiking or camping experience could have prepared him for. So Matt graduated.
I mean, a little bit could be prepared for. Like, if you're prepared to take on fast, crazy animals that want to kill you, and you have the firepower and the skills to be able to defend yourself, I don't think a pack of wild humans should be any different, really. The same thing, put them down, you know what I mean? Like, it's same result, really.
from high school in 2007, and in keeping with his plan, in the spring of 2008, he packed up his stuff, he headed to the airport, and he flew south to Southern California. And when he got there, he made his way all the way south to the border of Mexico.
Though I can't lie though, this does sound like a lot of fun. This does sound like a lot of fun. I wouldn't do it alone, and we would have to have some kind of plan to make this work. You know, I believe splitting like two other people. And unlike other stories, you share the same tent. Like you get a nice big tent, you share the same tent. You don't sleep alone, because then like middle of the night you hear sounds, you go to check on your fucking you camping hiking mates, and one of them's just gone. You don't play that game. Same tent. you know. But it does sound like fun, though. I can't lie to this. It does sound like fun, but it's not something you do alone. Like, not 1,700 miles. Like, you don't do that alone. Like, that's how you go missing.
And there he picked up the start of the Pacific Crest Trail, and he began heading north. For the first few weeks of his hike, Matt would spend the entire day hiking as far as his body would allow him, and then at night, when it got too dark or when he got too tired, he would just set up his campsite right off the edge of the trail, and then after a quick bite to eat, he'd climb inside of his tent and he'd go to sleep. And then the next day, he'd get up early and he'd do it all over again. During those first few weeks, the only real adversity that Matt ever faced...
So I'm trying to think of the logistics of this. 1,700 miles. And it's a winding trail. It's not a straight trail. How many miles do you think a human could probably walk in a day? By the way, your legs would be sore. But this would take months, right? This would at least be a good 1 to 5, 6 month journey, right? You found a way to bring enough provisions, and or did you plan on hunting? Do you know how to hunt and cook and all that good stuff, like forage and what you can eat, what will kill you? Like, I hope this guy knows this, because this is not a I can bring enough food in this pack here to make it through the whole thing. Like, you're probably gonna need to fish, hunt, forage, something. But like, how many miles do you think you could walk in a day? Let's see. I think I've before walked like 6 to 10 miles, and that took like 2 hours maybe. So I imagine you could, if you're walking all day, if you're at least getting a solid 8 hour trip and whatnot, I imagine you can walk anywhere between 40 to 80, give or take 10-20 miles a day. You're gonna be fucking traveling for a long fucking time.
Beyond just kind of normal fatigue from long distance hiking,
Right.
was at one point he got a little dehydrated, and another time he almost stepped on a rattlesnake. So besides those two things, really the hike had actually been fairly routine by Matt's standards. But when he reached the Lassen National Forest, which is a very dense forest in Northern California, located about 150 miles from the end of his hike, so the border of Oregon, when he got there, this hike of his would...
Wait, 150 miles away? Like, he's gone like full 1,500 at this point? Hold on, let me hear that again. I was distracted by the photo.
By Matt's standards. But when he reached the Lassen National Forest, which is a very dense forest in Northern California, located about 150 miles from the end of his hike, so the border of Oregon.
Wow, that's
when he
impressive.
got there,
Good job.
this hike of his would become anything but routine. Not long after stepping...
I love the number of times that Mr. B, I'm going to start calling Mr. B, it sounds better from my mouth. I love when he drops those little boom sound effects in there. Because sometimes they feel like they're in the right place. Sometimes it's just like, okay, well, yeah, I get it that it's about to take a turn, but like, I don't know if the sound effect is like the like heart dropping, like, oh shit moment that you're putting that in there for. Besides that, yeah, dude, this dude, okay, so far on board. This dude managed to survive the entirety of the trek. Just the last leg of the distance, 150 miles, approximately, probably a good 3-4 days left of the journey, I would guess. Was once he got to the big old woods and shit, shit didn't go well. Okay, all right. And this is 6 minutes in is where the story picks up.
Foot in Lassen Forest, Matt found himself walking along this winding dirt path where the trees on both sides of this path were pressed tightly.
Sorry, the video reset. I'll go back here.
Both sides of this path were pressed tightly up against the edges of this trail, and because of how densely packed the trees were together, it was almost like he had these walls on either side of him that extended 100 feet into the air. And so it was very quiet and it was very dark as he was walking along, but Matt was enjoying it. All he could hear was the chirping of birds and the insects buzzing around him.
Which is a good sign. You can hear wildlife. That's a good sign.
It was peaceful. And so Matt's just kind of meandering his way through the forest. He's in no rush. And at some point...
I wish there was a real photo of the national forest, but like that would probably be like dangerous to get because it doesn't sound like this is a safe place.
The trail he was on banked hard to the right. And so he makes this turn, and as he does, he looks up, and what he sees kind of startles him. About 20 feet away from him, off to the right side of the trail, is this big boulder, and sitting on this boulder are two middle-aged people, a man and a woman.
Whoa! Oh no! Human life. I assume he has not met, I mean, I'm sure he's met the occasional hiker and stuff that like are doing like a small chunk of the trail, but like, I'm sure he hasn't met human beings very often. There's probably a day or two will go by where he probably doesn't see human beings or something. There's certain parts of the trail that human beings don't usually get on and whatnot. And I'm guessing this is probably one of them. So it was about to get interesting. Or it could be normal and he doesn't think anything of it at first and then goes south. Who knows?
They were both dressed head to toe in white. They both looked very dirty and disheveled. The man had...
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, good. 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 I am Elizabeth Smart. Who's Elizabeth Smart? I don't know. But, got it. Yeah, no, you see that, like, you know, hip where the gun is. You kind of, like, slide down slowly, like, get it kind of ready to go. You know what I mean? You see... It's one thing you see a bunch of hikers like you know hiking and stuff like, oh, strangers on the trail, what's up, you know, keep your distance, but hey, how's it going? But you see something like that, no, that's game time, man. Gun, you know, ready to go, like, you know, that's game time.
This big unkempt beard, and both of them were just staring daggers at Matt. And so Matt...
Yeah, no, guns out. Guns out, be like, hey, I'm just gonna pass by you, I don't want nothing, you fucking move an inch, boom, you're gone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, then you have to be watching your back the whole way. Any noise you hear, oh, nah, yeah, this ain't good, man. This is turning south real fast.
Matt felt awkward, and he immediately looked down as he continued walking towards him.
No. How'd you survive mountain lions, cougars, and fucking bears and shit? If you just like, oh, humans, I'm just gonna not look at you and walk past you and assume that everything is gonna be good as I do. Dog.
But as he got within a few feet, he looked up and kind of awkwardly smiled at them and waved and
Hey,
said hi,
guys.
and they didn't respond. They just continued to stare at him with no discernible expression on their face, and they watched him as he walked right past them. And so after Matt walked past these two people in white, he felt really uncomfortable because he knew they were still definitely staring at him as he walked away, and he didn't want to turn around and meet their eye contact. And so he's just kind of walking away feeling...
Nah, dog, you look back. Like, you look back. Like, this is something that I do on my daily... Well, if it happens daily. But this is something I do in my life, and I don't care if people think, like, oh, does this person not trust me and stuff. Like, no, I don't trust any human being. I don't care who you are, what you look like. You could look like a druggie, or you could look like the nicest human being on earth. I don't trust you. I'm just gonna put that. If anyone walks past me, I don't care who it is. could be a little like 5-year-old. I know the 5-year-olds take out nice and stab you. Like, you ever hear those child gangs in Britain and stuff that would be mugging you and shit? I don't play that game. I don't trust anybody. So if I walk past somebody, I kind of, I'll look over my shoulder and keep keep them in eye contact as I'm walking, because just in case they're like, oh, do the whole thing, they walk past you, and then they turn around and come at you. If I see them turn around and start moving towards me, I'm ready to fucking go. Knife out, like, yo, 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 what up? Back the fuck up. You know what I mean? So, like, you don't just walk past me like, I sure hope these crazy people in white staring daggers at me don't follow me or start rushing at me. I'm just gonna use the honor system and keep walking. You don't play that game, dog. You know, if you want to live, you don't play that game. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
That uncomfortable feeling of someone staring at him, and he's thinking to himself, why didn't they at least wave or acknowledge him in some way? Especially considering the fact that on the Pacific Crest Trail, people go days without seeing other people.
Yeah.
Matt, in fact, had not seen another person in days until he saw these two. And so he's thinking, you know, how rude is that to just completely...
They're so rude.
...not react when another person walks past?
Yeah, it's not normal, dog. Like, I wouldn't think that that's rude. I think that's suspicious as hell. That's what I would think.
...you on this trail. But Matt told himself, you know what, I don't know these people. I don't know what their issues are. You know, for all I know, they're foreign and they didn't understand what I said. And so maybe that's why they didn't say hello back. Who knows? But you know what? It's none of my business. And so Matt just continued walking along. He never turned around to look back.
Why is it always Matt's? Wasn't the last dude that I had a huge problem with named Matt? They fucking I don't remember what it's called, something Canyon, Boulder Canyon, whatever the fuck it was. Well, isn't that dude named Matt too, or maybe not even the real name? Because obviously it's not this person's real name. He said they switched it, so obviously not his real name. But why is it always Matt's, man? Why is it always fucking Matt's, dog?
People in white. He just carried on. A few hours later, when the sun was starting to set, Matt was still walking along this winding trail with these huge trees on either side of him, and so visibility was getting pretty poor, and so he began looking for a place to make his camp. But because of how close these trees...
I mean, to be fair, at this point, this guy has made it from Mexico almost all the way up to Oregon. No issues so far. So, like, I guess to this guy's credit, nothing bad's happened yet. Why should I be worried? You know, that's fair. He's been doing this for probably a good month or so, if not longer, like several weeks. No issue. But like, you should know, man. Like, you always, this is how fate works, man. Every time you drop your guard, even just for a moment, that's when they get you. That's when life gets you. Nature or the crazies. That's when they get you. Is when you put your guard down. You always have to keep that guard up, defensive, ready to go. Always gotta be focusing on that shit, man. That's because that's when you die, is when you don't.
Were to the edge of this trail, and considering how dense these trees were, there was no spot for him to make his campsite without completely blocking the trail. And Matt did not want to block the trail for other people, and so what he did...
Okay, if other people are traveling through the night, it's a little weird. But also, you're getting easier to find if you're on the beaten path, so...
is he left the trail and he walked 300 feet or so into these thick trees where he found this little clearing, and that's where he set up his tent. Once it was all set up, he made some food for himself on his little stove, and then after he was done eating, he packaged up all of his leftover food inside of a waterproof bag, and he sealed that up, and then he tied some cord to the bag and threw the bag up and over a branch of a nearby tree.
Real photo of a different camping bag tied up in a tree. Got it. Okay. I mean, logical, because, you know, if any kind of natural predators and whatnot, bears especially, they're drawn to food and they can smell that shit from forever the fuck away. It's up in the tree. They're more likely to fucks with that tree than fucks with you, because they can see it, you know, so that's logical. Smart system he's got going on here.
Kind of tied it off so the bag was sitting well off the ground. This was to make sure no bears could get to his food. And so after his leftovers were...
I mean, bears can climb trees, but if it's too thin of a tree, then the bear probably won't be able to get up the tree. But still, bears can technically climb trees.
secured high up in a tree. It was totally pitch black outside. And so Matt just climbed into his tent, he zipped it up, climbed into his sleeping bag, and he fell asleep. The next morning, Matt got up right as the sun was starting to rise, and so it was still pretty dark outside, but there was a little bit of light. And so Matt unzipped his tent and he looked outside, and the first thing he noticed was his bag of food that he had put up in the tree was gone.
Yeah.
And so Matt stepped out of his tent and he looked around, thinking, you know, maybe it fell to the ground or something, but it wasn't there. It was just gone. And so Matt thought to himself, you know, I didn't hear anything last night, but I guess a bear must have come into the campsite, found the food, and run off with it.
Yeah, again, they can technically climb trees. That's your food supply, dog. That is your food supply. I don't know if you had plan B, plan C, plan D, but that's already, I mean, he's getting close to the end of his road, but like, I mean, it does take you a while to starve to death, but your ability to travel long distances is gonna shrink exponentially the more hungry you get. It's gonna be a vicious cycle. Hopefully, you know how to get some more food, or had extra food somewhere, some way, shape, or form, because that's your food supply that's just gone, dog.
And so Matt began walking over to the tree where he had strung the food up to begin looking on the ground for bear prints to confirm his theory that that was who took his food. And so he walks over, he's looking around, he doesn't see any bear prints, but he does see 2 sets of human boot prints.
These humans got boots? I think of feral humans, I think like barely clothed. I don't think boots. But yo, if you see human footprints around the place where your food is missing and you haven't seen humans in a while, oh no. Oh no. Besides those 2 creepy motherfuckers, that's bad. That's a bad sign. You ain't happy about that. That's a scary sign right there.
Neither of which were his. And before he could even process that, he realized these prints, these human prints, were not just underneath this tree where the food was. These prints, as he looked around him, extended all the way up to his tent and all around his tent and all over his campsite. And so as Matt is looking at this crazy trail of human prints all over the place, he's thinking to himself, how is this possible? I went to bed last night when it was already pitch black outside, and I got up basically right at sunrise, so it was still dark outside. So these 2 people that were walking all over my campsite and cutting my food down, they somehow navigated here 300 feet off the main trail.
No light, no flashlights that would have probably woken you up. Not enough sound to wake you up. Dog. Nah, that's bad news bears right there. But at this point, there's nothing you can do. You are like, what? 1600 fucking miles into this trip. There's probably a distance of a forest, not civilization, around you for days. I hope you brought a gun, dog. I hope you brought some protection, because it sounds like you about to need it.
In the middle of nowhere, they navigated here in total pitch blackness, and they did it silently without waking me up. How is that even possible? And so after running through this thought process, Matt realized the only logical conclusion was that the 2 people he saw on the rock, the people in white, had followed him after seeing him. They saw where he left the trail, and they had waited until he fell asleep and then snuck out and robbed him. As Matt's thinking about this, he suddenly realized that maybe they're still around.
Yeah, that sinking feeling, they're just like, it must have been those people. That like slow realization of, are they still here? That's straight out of a horror movie, man. That's scary shit right there.
Maybe he's still being watched. And so he began whipping his head around, looking in all directions, almost expecting to see the man and the woman in white kind of poking out from behind a tree. But when he looked around, he couldn't see anyone. However, he started to get that sense that he was being watched. And so feeling really uncomfortable, he quickly packed up his campsite and walked as quickly and calmly as he could toward the trail. And as he walked, he kept thinking to himself that these people are going to jump out from behind a tree.
Gotcha,
they're going
bitch.
to grab me from behind. And so he's walking faster and faster and faster. And he finally gets to the trail, and he looks down the trail and up the trail. He kind of looks all around. He doesn't see anybody.
anything, yeah.
And so he tells himself, okay, they're gone.
They just wanted my food. They just wanted to steal my food, steal some of my possessions, and get out. That would be if you get off easy. Seeing as how the story is not halfway done, yeah, I don't think you got off easy. So, yeah.
Breath, he composed himself.
He still has not mentioned anything about he, gripped his firearm a little bit closer. He's, there's still nothing that says to me he is armed and ready to go. If this dude went into onto a trail where he knows there is natural predators in and did not bring a firearm with them, the fuck is wrong with people named Matt that go out into the woods?
And he started walking north again along the trail. Matt walked for several hours, periodically looking over his shoulder, again expecting to see the man and woman in white, but he never did. And eventually, this narrow path kind of cutting through the dense forest opened up to this big, beautiful field. And by that point, the sun was high in the sky. And so Matt's walking in this very beautiful open area. He can see in all directions. There's sunlight.
Yeah, that is a beautiful moment where you can actually see your surroundings instead of being closed in a forest. Like, it makes you feel a little bit better when the sun's out. When the sun's down, like it's game on again.
Beaming down on him. And so even though he was totally rattled by what had happened the night before, he found himself kind of becoming more at ease about the situation.
But what about your food
Far
supply?
less paranoid.
Did you have
And he began
backup?
telling himself, as creepy as it is that those people in white almost certainly followed him and snuck up on his campsite in the middle of the night, as bad as that is, he thought, you know what? They probably were just super hungry and they clearly needed the food more than he did. And so, you know what? Those people, they can have my food. Whatever. And so
far, this guy's being a little bit more rational than the last guy that I was not a huge fan of. Because, that dude saw this shit on day one, where he had a clear ability to get back to his car within the same day. And he decided, won't show up again. Going 2 more days deep. Mistakes. This guy really has no other option. And just rationalizing it is like, well, I just gotta hope that they just wanted my food, whatever, what the fuck ever, you can have it. I don't care. I'll make it out. I'm fine. So this guy, he has no other option. The first dude had an option until he made it a point for him to have no other option. This guy doesn't have an option. He knew this was dangerous going into it. He seemed prepared for that. And at this point, you just got to keep going or die. It's one of those two, you know what I mean? There's not much more you can do in this situation. One of those two is going to happen. You got to keep going. You got to make it out, and they just want your food, or you fight for your life and or win and or die. You don't got any other options, so you just keep going,
Matt just continued on, telling himself he would never have to deal with the people in white ever again.
It's possible.
However, he would be wrong. Over the next 3 days, Matt continued making his way north through the Lassen forest, and the trail he was on would weave between those big, beautiful open areas back inside those very densely forested areas where the trees were practically right on top of you.
Oh, nice.
And during those 3
That's
days,
cool.
Matt did not see the people in white. He did not have any nighttime encounters with anybody. Nothing got stolen.
Well, there you go. 3 days clean and clear. That's good. Sucks that they're going to show back up again, because that means they were hunting you for a while.
And so that only reinforced the idea that, he had been a target of opportunity. They had taken what they wanted from him, and they were no longer following him.
Yeah,
but
logical.
On the 4th day after the food stealing incident, things would get spooky for Matt again. On that 4th night, Matt was once again forced to leave the trail he was on. He was in one of those very densely forested areas, and walk well off the trail to find a clearing for his tent. And so he walked, several hundred feet away. He finds this clearing. He sets up his tent. And then also he sets up a perimeter of sticks all around the outside of.
Yeah, see, that's why I said the very intro to this bitch. Set up some kind of defensive system. Even if it's just an alarm system, better than nothing. Like, let yourself know early. This dude hasn't seen anybody. I mean, first off, I hope he has a weapon. But this dude hasn't seen anybody for 3 days since this incident. But yet, he still, like, set up an alarm system. Set up some kind of system. JIC. Alright, Matt, we're getting somewhere. Good. I'm really liking this guy so far. Like, I'm totally digging this dude so far. The only problem I'm gonna have with you is when shit goes down. If I find out you did not pack a firearm with you, I'm gonna be a little upset. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be pretty disappointed with you, because so far you're going into this correctly. You've managed to navigate away from all sorts of dangerous wildlife. You've been smart about the way you've been making sure nothing gets to your food. At least nothing that's humanoid can't get to your food. Like, everything you've been doing and thinking and going through has been very smart and intelligent. Let's see if you kept that up by packing some heat from day one.
His campsite. This was a precaution he had begun taking after the food stealing incident.
Yeah, good.
These sticks
Smart.
were an early warning system where if any animal or person came too close to his campsite, they would step, in theory, on these sticks and they would break and they would alert Matt in the middle of the night. And so after his campsite was all set up and all prepared, Matt sat down and had a quick bite to eat, and then after storing his food, he climbed inside of his tent.
So that wasn't all of his food, which also sounds like a smart, didn't put all his baskets into one, or at least, again, had a way to forage and hunt. Good job, dude. So far, you are proving that, yes, you are fully capable of making this entire hike and journey. Awesome, dude. Good on you. Like, hats off to you. You seem pretty smart. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. You seem pretty smart, and I appreciate the intelligence that you've been distributing so far throughout this video.
And he fell asleep.
Advertisement.
Before we finish the story, I want to tell you about today's. Speaking of family, HelloFresh has a very popular.
I do want to get since we're talking about, I do want to get back into HelloFresh. I know my ex-wife and I will get in some of the HelloFresh stuff, and it's actually really good. Like, it's pretty fucking expensive, but I mean, like, especially nowadays, so shopping. So like, But yeah, I do want to get back into HelloFresh. It's just it's expensive, but yeah, it's good shit. Like, it really is good shit. So if you're interested, check it out. It's pretty good.
The store.
Or you can just do what I do, and that is, well, at least what I've done a few times is go look at their recipes and just buy the ingredients and make it yourself. That's what I've been doing. But anyways.
A few hours later, Matt suddenly woke up. Now, when he woke up, he opened his eyes, but it's pitch black in his tent. There are no windows in his tent, and It's pitch black outside. So even with his eyes open, he can't see anything. And so he's just laying there with his eyes open, but it's total darkness, and he's just listening intently because he doesn't really know why he woke up, if something startled him, or if there's no reason at all. And so he's just laying there and he's listening, and as he's listening, he hears the distinct sound of something stepping on one of the sticks in his perimeter.
Whew. Don't like that. So there's also something that's pretty legit right there. It's a ranger skill. If you've ever read the Ranger's Apprentice books, which if you haven't, you should. But that is, whenever you hear a sound, I've actually done this before, but not intentionally. When I was sleeping, I don't know how I had the wherewithal to do this. It wasn't anything, but I still practiced the skill. If you hear something that wakes you up, you hear it, but you continue your breathing pattern, pretending like you're asleep, just in case it's listening for you. The whole time your ears are listening, you kind of peek your eyes a little bit, look around, and you pretend you keep that rhythmic breathing pattern as if you were asleep, so the thing around you doesn't, thinks, oh, you're still asleep, even though you're fully awake, you're fully listening. I don't know if he's doing all of that, but like the fact that he's not just getting up and like, oh, making sound and like, oh, I heard something. The fact that he's just laying there being like, what is that? What, did something wake me up? I'm gonna listen for it first. If it's nothing, I go back to sleep. Again, smart, very clever. This dude's proving that yes, it does sound like he was fully prepared and ready to take on this kind of trip. Respect right here.
And so he hears the stick break and his heart just starts racing because he knows that an animal or a person is just a few feet away from him.
Yeah.
And so instinctively he kind of begins to pull his arm as quietly as he can out of his sleeping bag, and he reaches over and he grabs his hunting knife. And as he grabs the handle of the knife and he brings it closer to him, he hears the sound.
I mean, it's better than nothing, right? He's got a knife, a specific knife designed to be able to cut through the hide of an animal. Should have no problem against a human. And if a humanoid is out here, the chances of out in this kind of dense backdoors hike and stuff, the chance of them being armed with a ranged weapon drops drastically than if they were like breaking into your house or something. So, he at least has the tools that if it's an unarmed, crazy human, he can at least somewhat defend himself against a 1v1 mano-y-mano situation. If there's like 3 or 4 and they all jump you at once, that knife's probably going to do very little, but like you would hope that situation wouldn't happen. But like, hoping's nice and all, but like, going to Ranger skills again. It's a great book. You really need to read that series. It's fantastic. It's amazing. The characters are fucking great. Always plan for the worst. And if the worst doesn't happen, you won't be disappointed. But if it does, you were ready for it. Like, always plan for the worst possible outcome to happen. If it doesn't happen, you won't be disappointed. You know what I mean? So plan that, like, if I meet a stranger out in this trail and I have to go buck wild on them, plan for it to be an army of humans. That way, when you have the weapons necessary to take on a whole fucking army, if only one shows up, they're fucking destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, cause you were planning for 10, And if it's an animal, if a fucking bear comes at you, what are you gonna do? Oh, the other video's done. Yeah, oh, I'm gonna stab you to death, bear. I can win this fight. Like, you were not prepared for a bear to come? Where's your rifle? Where's your magnum? Like, where's your stopping power gun? If you were preparing for cougars and bears, what the fuck's a knife gonna do? Like, even if we weren't planning on psychopathic humans, what's a hunting knife gonna do to a fucking bear? Like, are these people even thinking? Maybe that's just what okay, I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's just what he's sleeping near. Maybe his weapon is in another bag or something. But shouldn't it be, again, do you prepare for the worst possible outcome that you're going to wake up and there's bear? Gun. Boom. You know what I mean? Like, prepare for the worst possible outcome, people.
Of more footsteps. Whatever has stepped on the stick has not slowed down at all. They don't care about the sound they just made. They're still moving.
Yeah, because there's probably a bunch of them and he got one knife. Fuck, they care about one knife when they got an army.
Moving towards his tent. And so Matt's starting to get really freaked out because he knows that, it could be an animal, but just a couple of days ago, 2 people were in his campsite stealing his food and walking all around his tent. And so that's what's going through his head. And so Matt's laying there preparing himself to potentially have to slash out if anybody came close to his tent. I mean,
unzip as quiet as you can. Get your legs free so you can dive. But don't make too much noise and let them know all this person's awake. You want them to think they ambushing you, but in reality, you ambushing them. That's what you want.
He's in the middle of nowhere. If a person is out here, it's not his friend. And so he's laying
life
there,
or
he's
death.
kind of shaking, and he's listening
It's
really
100%
intently.
life or death.
And the footsteps are just getting closer and closer and closer to his tent until they stop right next to his head. They are literally about a foot away from him. And so he can't see anything. He's just listening really intently.
Yeah.
And then he starts to hear whispering. But the whispering is not coming from this person right here. The whispering is coming from everywhere in the forest. It's coming from all different directions. And so Matt doesn't know what to think about this. And as he's hearing this whispering, which is getting more and more frantic, whoever is standing right outside of his tent begins circling his tent. So now he hears footsteps just walking.
I mean, as the moment where you hear someone's behind you, yet you hear whispering everywhere, you realize, oh, there's more than one of them. What the fuck's this knife gonna do? Hopefully, I'll have to make them try to come in the tent one at a time, 300 them, make their numbers count for nothing, stab, 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 they'll get fucking congested by the bodies of their fallen friends, keep stabbing. That's like your best hope in this scenario. And you're also hoping that these strangers don't have guns, because then they could just light up the fucking tent and you're done. But this also made me think of, like, what are the odds that when this was over, I mean, this is what I would do personally. If I went through this situation where these people scared me like this, like, again, as I said in these other videos, I don't possess firearms. But even I would go buy, like, machine guns, we're talking submachine guns, assault rifles. Like, I would go buy some high-powered stuff, get a bunch of my friends together, whoever was down to get some revenge. I'd get like 5, 6, however many people, high-powered rifles, and I would come back and I would air out this whole fucking forest. I would, if I saw those people fucking standing on that trail getting white, just chilling there, I'd be like, remember me? Say hello to my little friend. And I would just fucking light them up. Who's gonna find the bodies? You know what I mean? You're out in the middle of fucking nowhere. I would find out where their main base is. We would just fucking be like, oh, you think it's fucking fun? You think it's fucking fun? Well, guess what? The hunters just became the hunted. Because we the alpha predators now, bitch. That's what I would do personally. I would go back and light up the whole fucking forest. But that's just, you know, it's whatever.
In a circle around his tent while frantic whispers are coming in from all directions. And so at this point, Matt is so terrified, he's just frozen. He knows that he's holding that knife, but he won't be able to do anything with it. He's just petrified.
I mean, even if it wasn't because you were scared, it's because there's more than one of them. They're pop not gonna work. Where's he gone, Doc? Where's he gone?
And then as soon as this total nightmare had begun, it just stopped. The whispering, silence. The footsteps stopped. And so in a way, it was kind of relieving, but in another way, Matt's laying there thinking, I want to hear the sound of footsteps retreating into the forest, leaving.
They could just be there.
But I haven't heard that. It went from footsteps all around the tent and whispering everywhere to silence, as if whoever is out there is still out there. And they're just standing there waiting for him. And because it's so dark, he can't even look. He can't look outside and see. And so he's left just laying in his tent, wondering.
Any kind of flashlight or lighting system if you're going to be out at night in the dark? Come on, dog.
If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people are just waiting outside of his tent, he's got no idea. And so finally the sun would come up in the morning, and again, Matt has not heard the sound of retreating footsteps. And so maybe there's...
At least he was smart enough to not to be like, I'd go back to sleep, right? He was at least waited for daylight.
Still just standing outside. But once the sun had totally come up and there was some light outside that he could see through his tent, Matt decided he just had to check. And so he reached over and he quickly
no
unzipped
choice.
the flap of the tent and he
Come
looked
out.
outside. He didn't see anyone. He leapt outside with his knife, ready to confront
Yep.
anyone who was out there.
Come
but
out.
there was no one. And so Matt, he's not thinking, oh, great, they're gone. He's thinking, are they just like a few feet away, hiding behind trees? And so for a few minutes, Matt just began looking all around his campsite, kind of expecting to see, those people in white or other people. He
Just
doesn't
anyone,
know,
really.
but he doesn't see anyone. And then Matt starts thinking to himself, was this just a nightmare? Did that not even happen? Am I imagining this? But when he looked down, he saw clear boot prints all
Why are they
over
wearing
his
boots?
campsite, including a
Is it a
nice
cult?
track all the way around his tent. And so this nightmare really
Was
had
real.
played out in real life. And so he quickly gets everything back into his pack.
Now, how can they walk away silently with boots? What's up with the boots? How do you not hear boots leaving? Did they climb up? They're in the trees. They in the trees. You would hear the trees, though. You would hear the climbing on the trees, especially if they got boots. There'd be some scraping. Why are they wearing boots?
He throws it on his shoulder, and he just starts running back towards the trail. And when he got to the trail, he continued running north. And as he's running along and looking over his shoulder the whole time, he's telling himself, I just need to get out of Lassen National Forest. I need to get
Yeah. You need to get out of where you can't see into open ground so you can see for miles around you.
out of the people in white's turf. Get away from this place, and I'll be left alone. And so that motivated him to
Real
spend
photo.
the whole day moving as fast as he possibly could. And by that afternoon, he had finally escaped Lassen National Forest. He was out, and he was in one of these smaller towns that kind of butted up alongside this forest. And so that night, he camped out right near this town. He wanted to be as close to civilization as possible.
I mean, I know you didn't, probably didn't bring any money with you on this trip, which makes sense. Why would you need money? I would have gone to the hotel and been like, hey, guys, I've been, anyone, any house, any store, anything where there may be people at night, and be like, y'all, this shit happened. Can I, I know this is a weird request, but can I please, just just one night, my tent, right outside by the building, so I know I'm near human beings that should be here, and, is that cool? That's what I do. I want to get, I'd be like, well, I'm close enough. I'd be like, nah, I'd be, right next to the door. or even be like, hey, I know I ain't got no money, but, I'm afraid that they coming for reals. Please, can I sleep in here? Can you do me this solid? I swear, I will fucking PayPal you later. I don't know if PayPal was there in 07, but I will fly back here personally and drop off some serious tip for you. I need to get indoors. Fuck this shit. But I mean, I don't know.
To ensure his safety. And so as he's laying in his tent that night, he began thinking about what had happened over the past couple of days. At this point, he was nearly certain that the people in white that he had seen on that boulder, they had to be behind these nighttime encounters. They just had to be. And so he's
It's
thinking to
logical.
himself, okay, well, the first encounter I had with them, when they stole his food, yeah, that's creepy, but it makes sense. They followed him, they went to his campsite,
logical.
they stole his food. Okay, fine. That makes sense to him. But the second encounter, the one that had happened the night before, that didn't make any sense. Assuming it was, again, the people in white responsible, that meant they had been following Matt the whole time, and he had not seen them somehow, even though over the last couple of days, he had been looking over his shoulder constantly, looking for those people, but he didn't see them, and they still managed to follow him all the way.
I mean, if they can find you in the middle of the night, traversing through, and they can be super silent in boots, or at least quiet enough, it means that they can probably follow and track you through the dense forest. They don't need to be on the trail. You're not going to see them if they're following you.
way over several days to this other unmarked campsite hundreds of feet off the main trail. So how did they do that? And then two, once they were at his campsite and he's laying there listening to them walking around the campsite whispering to each other, what were they doing? And then how did the footsteps and whispering just stop immediately and he didn't even hear the sound of them retreating into the woods? How did they do that? And so Matt would go over this and over this until finally he would fall asleep. And then the next morning when he got up, it was the first thing he was thinking about. The people in white. What were they doing and why and where were they? And so as Matt packed up his campsite that morning, it did cross his mind, that maybe he should just stop the hike right now and call his family, have them come pick him up and get out of here. But
that's what I mean. He's so fucking close. Like he's got to be within under 100 miles by this point. Like easily a couple days. He's got to be like within like 50 miles or less by this point. Like he's got to be so fucking close, right? So like, I mean, after the first one, yeah, finish the hike. After that second one, like, nah, dude, I got close enough. Like I want to complete the journey. I've gotten this far, but like, dog, I can't risk night 3. Like, I got lucky with night 2. Fuck reason knows why. I didn't pack a gun. So like, if they come back, but hopefully on the off chance that they come back, the fuck am I gonna do? I'm here with civilization. They shouldn't try to come into civilization unless it's a personal vendetta against me. They shouldn't come into becoming into civilization. So like, get out while I still can, or at least come back with a gun and finish the rest of the 50 to 100 whatever miles I got left. I don't know.
This hike, this huge hike he had planned, was really important to him.
Right.
And he was only about 100 miles away from the finish line, which meant he had already hiked over 1,600 miles.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want to quit. He wanted to finish what he started.
Right. Which, again, if you had a firearm, sounds very plausible. It also sounds like there's some paranormal, extraterrestrial level shit going on. If they can just disappear silently with boots on, like, something ain't right. Like, these ain't your average humanoids. if they can like accomplish those level of feats, this ain't your average run-of-the-mill people. You without some firepower, I don't think you risk it. But I mean, the person was clearly alive long enough to tell the tale, so I guess it worked out for them in the end. But like, I doubt it was like, oh well, he finished the rest of the trail peacefully. No, he probably there's a way. The reason it's probably called feral people hunt. 2 nights classify as hunt, but we don't know it's feral yet. So I'm sure it's not, oh, the rest of the nights went by, no incident. Nah, dog, some shit happened. Like, some shit happened.
And so he packed up his stuff, he threw it over his shoulder, and he continued on. And so that day, Matt would leave that little town, and he would make his way up into another very dense forest called the Mount Shasta forest. Mount Shasta was a lot like the Lassen forest, except Mount Shasta has a very disturbing backstory. Specifically, lots and lots of people go missing inside of Mount Shasta.
Let's go to the timeout. Did he know this? Because if you're just like, oh, I gotta finish the last leg of my journey through the place where everyone's been reported to go missing without a firearm, again, dog, you don't. I gotta say, man, you're out of your league at this point. Like, why do these people think, oh, hunting knife will do the job? I'll do the trick. I'm gonna look up a fucking hunting knife right now. See what kind of dimensions we're working with a standard hunting knife. Hunting knife. Hunting knife images. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought it looked like. I mean, let me pick up a knife here. I'll even look at the scary serrated one here. Like, that's what we fucking with here. Like, look at that with the fucking light. Look at that weaponry. That's probably, say at least the blade's probably like this long. You know, decent size knife, all things considered. You got pretty melee, but you at least got like a few, like 2-3 feet of range with your stabbing power, maybe up to 5 fully arm extend. But still pretty close quarters. And yeah, that's gonna do some serious damage to flesh. But like, imagine you have someone in front of you, taken care of. Maybe in the sides you get a good arc, cool. But you got people behind you at every angle, all jumping on you at the same time. You might take 3 with you, but you're fucking done. After that, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's that knife going to do to a human? And also, if you get that close to a bear and your plan is just, I need a clean shot to a point that's going to insta-kill this bear, bear's going to take your fucking face off, dude. If you're getting into melee with a bear, you're probably dead. Like, I don't even care if you're like Brock Lesnar swole. That thing is probably taking you the fuck out. I hate to tell you, but the solid muscle on a bear alone, one swipe, and your ass is fucking down. Like, those claws are going to cause deep lacerations. The strength behind their arms is they could probably instantly get you on the ground with one fucking hit. If you don't, I don't think the full force of it slamming into you is enough to break anything right off the bat, but it's gonna get pretty close to fracture, if not fracture. Their muscles are that fucking strong. If you're in melee with a fucking bear that's mouth can engulf your whole fucking face and crush your skull, you're probably already fucking dead. Who takes that chance that a bear is not gonna assault them through fucking 1,700 miles? Why are you not strapped, dude? Like, everything you've done so far has been very intelligent. Your thoughts have been very rational, very logical. But why would you take this journey without a gun? It doesn't, like, if you have a gun, you can just fans pop, 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 pop. It don't matter how many they got if they don't got guns. Like, even they try to swarm you, the sound, if they're feral, should scare them. And the fact of seeing like 5-6 other people just drop before the others get close enough should be enough for them, like, maybe we run. Like, it's just, why are you not strapped right now? It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me why people keep doing this. But then again, I guess we wouldn't have these stories if they did. The story would have been like, well, these people try to act tough and shit. They came at me, pop, pop, pop. And that was it. I finished the rest of the journey. So, I mean, I guess it's like we got these stories because these people are not fucking thinking well enough. But, like, at the same time, it's just like, it just blows my mind. Why would you do that? Even if you weren't expecting to face humanoids, why would you do that? Anyways.
And often they go missing under baffling circumstances. The most frightening of these missing persons reports are when someone comes back, the survivor of the event, and they will say, you know, they saw their hiking companion. They clearly saw them. And then they turned their back on them just for a few moments, few minutes, whatever it was. And when they turned back around, the person they were with was now gone. No trace of them, nothing. They're just gone. And despite a massive search for them, they're never found again. There is a distressing number of missing people in Mount Shasta that sound just like that. It's totally terrifying. So, with that in mind, Matt makes his way into the Mount Shasta forest. And
with that in mind, he does it anyway.
Even though it totally stressed him out to once again be walking on these dirt pathways where the trees are very tight on either side of you, they're very dense, and as he's walking, he's kind of looking in both directions, expecting to see somebody watching him. Despite feeling that way, Matt just continued to stay focused and kept telling himself to just continue on, because you're so close to the end. And so the first 3 days that he was in the Mount Shasta forest, Matt would just keep his head down and very stoically every day he would just hike as far as he possibly could. In the evening, he would set up his campsite either right off the trail or maybe a little ways off the trail in a clearing. And he didn't have any run-ins with the people in white or anybody else for that matter.
I mean, 3 days. So I mean, this dude must be only being able to travel like 15 to 20-ish miles a day. If it's another 3 days for 100 miles, like, yeah, I mean, I think that sounds about right. It's, but still, another 3 days, no instances, and now whatever it was, which you again assume is humanoid, they had boots. Is aware of your perimeter tricks, so. But they didn't seem to give a shit the first time, and nothing bad happened to them. So the chances are, even if they're aware of your alarm system, they'll probably just stomp through and be like, "The fuck are you gonna do? Fuck can you do?"
He was totally left alone. But on his fourth day in the
It's
Mount
always the
Shasta
fourth day.
forest, all that would change. On that
Good.
fourth day, Matt found
Good.
himself not inside one of those very dense forested areas, but rather in this very open trail that was
Oh,
up on
beautiful.
the side of this mountain. And because this trail was fairly high up in elevation, the tree coverage was fairly sparse. And so there
Yeah.
was great visibility. He could see miles ahead of him, and when he turned around, he could see miles behind him.
Awesome.
And so Matt is just walking along this trail, kind of enjoying the day. It's beautiful outside. And at some point, he turns around and looks behind him. Now, all day he'd been doing that, and he had not seen anyone. But
No.
this time, when
Not
he
like
turned
this.
around, he saw two little white dots, miles and miles back, slowly making their way along the trail that he was
Not
on.
like this.
It was the people in white. They were back.
There's only two again. Only two again. That's so weird.
At this point, Matt was at least 50 miles or more away from that first place he had walked past
Yeah.
the people in white when they were sitting on that
Yeah.
boulder. Which meant, one, Matt was right. These people in white really had followed him and almost certainly were responsible for the nighttime visits he was getting. And two, for reasons unknown, they were
was
still
still
following
fucking
him.
following.
Matt suddenly didn't care at all about completing his big hike. He just wanted to get the heck away from those people.
Oh, it's great that you feel that way now. Now that you don't really got a fucking choice, dude. I think this is another same mistake that Matt made. I think this is the same mistake that the other Matt made. At this point, confirmation. You can see them. Like, but they're miles away, dog. And the chances are that they probably disappear before, if you started approaching them, they'd probably run away, potentially run away or disappear. But in all honesty, like, since you're not anywhere close to civilization, you still have half that journey. Probably could imagine 40, 50 miles to go. They're going to be there that night, wherever you camp, no matter how fast you run, wherever you go, they can clearly track through the night. Like, this is clear at this point. They will find you. They will be there that night. Whether you hear them or not, they will be there that night. It is daylight out now. You have visual on them, and you're in a clearing. I think what you do in that situation, same thing with that other dude, that other canyon dude. Like, you go all or nothing. Fight to the death. You try to end them and just move along. You know what I mean? You end them and you move along. So I would just pretend to be get in a position where you can see the white dots at the corner of your eyes and just pretend to be admiring the view and see if they get, farther out of the tree line, and then start moving towards them. See if they charge you or if they're like, oh, he sees us, and they run back into the woods and whatnot. But hopefully you get option A, where they're like, it's on, and they come at you and knife out, all right, it's either me or you. One of us is going down. I'm gonna see if I can get an angle, try to get one down so I can get it for the other. I think at that point, because you know they're gonna be there that night. You have the protection of visibility on your side now. Why try to put the stage of the fight in pitch darkness where they clearly have the advantage over you? Like, you try to take that fight now. You take that fight now in the opening where they can't run and hide unless that's far away from you. You take that fight nowsies and try to see if you can take them out. You know what I mean? So that way, it's like, if it was just them, no problem, they're done. But if it happens again, it's like, all right, there's an army of them. What the fuck can I do? I decided to go into the woods with no fucking gun. I'm done. And I killed 2 of their crew. Like, this was inevitable at that point. Because, again, you made the decision to go into the dangerous territory without ranged weaponry. You dumb motherfucker.
And so very quickly he pulled out his map and he looked, and to his horror, he realized he was in one of the most isolated portions of the entire hike.
Yeah,
he was
crazy.
at least 25 miles away from
Yep.
the nearest civilization, a
Yeah.
little town called Castella, California. And so without a better option, Matt put the map back in his pocket. He took one last look at the people in white who were making steady gains on him, and then Matt just turned away from them and began booking it down.
No, they're coming towards you. Like, he said, steady gains towards you. Take that fight then and there, dog. Take that fight right there. You only see 2, you take that fight. If, like, 60 of them start pouring out of the forest, and you're like, fuck, and you run. Even if you have a gun at that point, you fucking run. But, like, there's 2 of them, dog. Like, there's no way that they, like, super svelte or have supernatural strength or anything like that. Like, they might be frail. You never know. Like, you take that fight right then and there. You choose the conditions to which your battlefield will be placed. It's going to go way better for you than if you're just trying to fend off crazy pitch black darkness when they can see. Like, you choose where your battlefield's gonna be, dog. And there's no way you run 25 miles, right? There's no way you just fucking sprint 25 miles in these things they can track and hunt in pure blackness don't outrace you, right? There's no way. You choose, all right, open field where I can see anything coming. Let's go. No one can pop out behind a tree. Third, fourth enemy approaches. That ain't gonna happen. This is where I plant my battlefield. This is where we fight. All I'm saying, dude. That's all I'm saying.
On the trail. And Matt would run for hours and hours and hours without stopping. Even when he turned around and could no longer see the people in white, he just kept on running. And then when the sun set and he could barely see the trail, he just kept on running. It literally wasn't until it was so dark outside that he actually couldn't see the ground anymore that Matt finally, totally exhausted, came to a stop. And then from there, he turned and left the trail and walked way away from the trail, hundreds of...
That ain't gonna do it, dog. That ain't gonna do it. They can clearly track you. They have not lost your trail for weeks, dog. At least a good week, they have not lost your trail. They're gonna find you. It doesn't matter how far into the woods you go. They're gonna find you. This is clearly their domain. And now, you can't see. And, also, why would you try finishing this race, running it, and possibly exhausting yourself if you didn't stand a chance of making it to the end? You just rookie mistakes here, dog. Rookie mistakes here.
Feet deep into the forest to get as far away from these people in white as he possibly could. And so finally he found this clearing very far away from the trail. He set up his tent right in the middle of it.
Yourself,
and then he very diligently laid out his perimeter of sticks around his campsite, making sure there were no gaps. And then he climbed inside of his tent. He zipped it up, and then keeping on all of his stuff in case...
How did you make a perimeter if you can't see? That's all I'm crazy. So do you have a light source? Which also, why would you go into this kind of journey without a flashlight?
In case he needed to make a run for it, he got inside of his sleeping bag and he just laid there with no expectation that he was going to sleep. He was terrified. As he laid there, he thought to himself, okay, I have now run at least several miles ahead of them. I know that was them. I know I got some distance on them. There's no way they saw where I turned off the trail and where I've set up this campsite. So
clearly
they can't
can track you,
possibly
dude.
find me. And so Matt would lay in the tent for several hours just waiting to fall asleep. And then finally he would start to get tired because at this point it's totally quiet outside. He hasn't heard anything. And so he begins to doze off to sleep. And as he's getting more and more tired, he hears the sound of someone stepping on his perimeter of sticks. And as soon as he hears that stick break, he hears the all too familiar whispering pick up all around the forest.
You had a chance to fight when you could, dog. You fucked it up.
And then something new happens. Before Matt can even do anything, his tent lights up like a Christmas tree. Someone is shining a light on his tent. Someone has snuck up on his campsite in the middle of nowhere, hundreds and hundreds of feet off the trail, in the middle of the night. They've found him, and they're shining a light on him. And then the light clicks off, and it's silent. And at this point, Matt's fight-or-flight instinct kicks in, and he rips off his sleeping bag, he jumps outside, and begins screaming nonsense and flailing around with the knife, trying to intimidate these people to get away from him. And then after he stops for a second, he hears a stick crunch right behind him.
Dog. Everything you're doing is too late. Everything you're doing is way too late. Again, if you're just like, fuck it, now my fight instincts kick off. Again, you chose the battlefield where you have no vision. And you don't know, you can't see, you're in dense forest, completely dark, and you're just swinging wild. You chose that battlefield over can see for miles, can locate my targets, and try a 2v1. That's when you decide, oh, now I fight? You're asking for this ass whooping that might just come. You're pretty much just saying, please kill me. Anyways, stick behind him. Cool. Let's go. The story's almost over.
And he whips his head around to look at who is standing right behind him. And as he's turning out of his peripheral vision, he sees a dark figure running towards him. He doesn't think...
Again, you chose this battlefield. You chose this battlefield where you can't see around you. Good job, bro.
Twice, he just turns and begins running away from the campsite. Now,
I mean, the fuck else are you gonna do? But like, now you're with little energy left, barely got any of that energy back. You can't see, pitch black. You don't seem to have a light source on you for whatever fucking reason. You're gonna just try to hoof it from these people that can clearly see in the dark? Cool, man. At that point, I think you just try swinging at the dark rather than running away. But like, I don't know. Your choices have kept you alive so far, so I guess keep going with them. As dumb as they may be.
Remember, it's pitch black in the forest. There's trees everywhere. And so Matt's smashing into trees. Branches are hitting him. He's falling to the ground. But he is on a pure adrenaline high. And he is just sprinting as fast as he possibly can away from this person who is likely still chasing him. And after 5 minutes of running, he stumbles and falls forward and kind of lands at the base of this fallen tree. The tree had landed in such a way that it was kind of propped on a rock. So there was a small gap underneath the tree. And so Matt, thinking quickly, kind of slid himself underneath this log and positioned himself so he was looking back in the direction he was running from.
How scary is it going to be just to see just come in the darkness? So he's Frodo in this. The ring rate's going to be like... He's just hiding under the hollow. All right. Good luck, man. Hey, it worked for Frodo.
And as he laid there, he saw in the distance this light bobbing around. These people are looking for him.
And these feral people have light sources, and yet your civilized, intelligent ass didn't bring a light source. Dumb motherfucker.
They're searching the forest for him. And so he watched in horror, tucked underneath this log, as whoever had the light and whoever else was with them, they moved closer and closer and closer, but they did not find him tucked underneath the log.
Hey, man. Dude Frodo'd it. Good job, bro.
They just walked right on past him. And so Matt would remain underneath this log all night.
For the rest of the night.
Finally, the sun...
Yeah, you don't fucking move. You don't fucking move.
Came up, and at that point, even though it was fairly obvious that whoever was looking for him, they were now gone, Matt was still...
It ain't very obvious. You don't know what kind of sweep they're doing. You don't know if it's circular. You don't know if they're like, well, they clearly ran this way. We'll just keep going this way infinitely. He must be near the end of the woods. Like, you don't fucking know. It's not obvious at all. You have no fucking idea where these people are. You just know you survived till morning. This doesn't, this doesn't happen if you have a gun. You just fire in the distance, the person's running at you. Pop, pop, pop. They ain't running at you no more. And whoever else is there, they saw what you did to the homie. If they don't got a gun, guess what they do? They don't charge you. But now is a chance if they did keep moving, they're guarding the exit to the forest. And I don't think they have any problem charging you in the daylight. Because they know that your bitch ass runs. Anyways.
Terrified, and so he stayed under the log for several hours until it was about early afternoon, and then he finally pulled himself out from under the log, and he looked around. He couldn't see anyone, and then instead of going back to his...
Oh, fuck your shit. If you're close enough to get to civilization, fuck your shit. Go.
Campsite and getting his gear, he just totally abandoned it.
Hopefully you brought your knife with you. Hopefully he took off with his knife, so he should still have his knife. That's all you need at this point. Get the fuck out. Fuck your tent, fuck your food, fuck all your shit, fuck it. Get out.
That these people in white or whoever it was, that they were still going to be there. And so he just turned and continued running away from his campsite back out to the trail. And once he got the trail, he continued running on the trail all the way to Costella, California. And when he got there, he hitchhiked his way to the town of Mount Shasta. And there he would speak to police as well as the forestry service.
Dude's so fucking lucky. Like, if dude didn't find that tree, he was probably fucking dead.
About what he had experienced. And so they would take all of his information down and they would put him up in a motel for the night. And then the next day, Matt would get in touch with his family and they would drive from Oregon to Mount Shasta. They would pick him up and they would take him back home. Months later...
I mean, he pretty much made it, though. Like, even if he didn't make it to the exact destination that he was planning on being, he still technically got pretty close enough. So.
Matt would contact the Mount Shasta police and the Forest Service and would just follow up and say, hey, have you learned anything else about these people in white? Have you caught them? Has anybody else come forward? And the police would say, you know, they did have a number of people coming forward saying that things had been stolen from their campsites. These are people that were in Mount Shasta, in Lassen Forest, and the surrounding forests. Right. But Matt was the only one who had reported being terrorized by this mysterious couple in white. And so to this day, Matt has no idea who those two people were, what they wanted with him, beyond obviously the food they took. I mean, they continued to stalk him for nearly 100 miles. Yeah. And he has no idea how they were able to keep finding his campsites that were hundreds of feet off the main trail in unmarked areas that they would somehow navigate to in total darkness without alerting Matt.
I mean, they clearly had a flashlight. So total darkness, you know, not really.
It's all a big mystery. So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please...
So everything was going great for Matt here. So the lessons we can learn from today's story is, again, if you are going to go in any experience where you're going to be camping in the woods, even if it's off a trail, even if it's anywhere that's not a designated camping area, anywhere that's not a, yes, this is a campground, people camp here, multiple people, you'll be able to see them at all points from your campsite. There's a road attached to your campsite that people will drive on. Highly populated area, people are going to see you if anything happens. People will hear if anything happens to you. If you're camping in any environment that's not that, bring a fucking gun. Like, all these stories I've seen so super easily would have been solved with a quick pop, pop, pop. Problem gone. Problem done. And it sounds like there was only 2 of them. There's only 2 of them. I was expecting the part where the light was going to show up. He was going to see like a bunch of people, like 5 plus. I was going to be like, holy shit. But it sounds like there's just 2 of them. 2 of them. Like, dude, gun solves all these fucking stories. Because they clearly didn't have guns. Otherwise, they would have gunned you down as you tried to run. Or at least you would have heard gunfire. They might have missed. It just solves these issues. Crazies out in the woods usually don't have ranged weaponry. They usually just suspect the fact that, like, you're going to show up will be enough to scare them, and they'll just attack you and win. Like, they're not prepared for pop, 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 you know? Just bring a gun and this shit doesn't happen, dude. But the other lesson we can learn from as I mentioned before, if you're going anywhere where there's going to be natural animal predators, you need a firearm, dude. Like, even if that was just a bear charging you down, it still should have something to pop, pop, pop. Get them pop, pop, poppies going. I just don't understand why people think, like, I'll survive in the woods, miles away from where anyone will ever find my body ever. I don't need any ranged weapons. Anyways, so that's the lesson we can learn here. Also, the other lesson we can learn, even if you're just like, well, I wanted to finish this, I know I should finish this, it's just, even with that, man, like, even if that happened, the point where he saw them coming after him, and it didn't seem like him looking in their direction stopped their gait towards him at all, that's when you choose your battlefield. Like, as I've said, and even the ones that were not out in the forest, choose the terms and conditions for which the battle is going to go and just go for it. That even happened in the first story that I ever did, where the son kills his dad. Like, when you know your son's lying, if you think he's gone enough to where there's going to be a fight, you can choose the terms and conditions of where that confrontation happens. You know what I mean? Because he don't know that you know. You get to choose when that battle happens, how it happens, who's armed with what, and how it goes. Choose your advantageous point. If you got 2 people coming at you, who the fuck want it? Every time I do these stories, man, I hear any sound in my room that normally I wouldn't think of. It's like, what the fuck is that? Anyways, like, I kind of forgot what I was saying, but like, if you're out in the woods and you see them coming towards you, you know that there's going to be a situation that night. If you can't make it out, if you sit there and think logically to yourself, like, there's no way from just the distance I've been able to cover throughout the days, walking, even running, even if you double that mileage that I can usually gain, I still won't get to safety. So that means they will be there tonight. They will be there tonight. Do I want to take that fight now? Or do I want to take that fight when they have the upper hand? Like, clearly, when I do want to take that fight, when I can't see, they can. When I don't know where they'll be coming from and I'll be surrounded by trees instead of out in the opening. When do I want to take that fight? Because there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a situation where either I'm running for my fucking life and I just hope I outrun them, or I fight to the death. One of those two things has to happen. Do I want to try to run through the blackened forest in the middle of the night without a light source because I'm smart and didn't bring a light source in the middle of the fucking woods? Or do I want to stand and fight to the death when I can't see anything? And they can. Obviously, just thinking as a tactical position, that's extreme disadvantage to their extreme advantage. I can't see them, they can see me. So, in that situation, pick your battlefield. Pick the smarter battlefield of, I can see they're coming. If they don't stop and it's a 2v1, so be it. I have a knife. They're probably tooth and claws. Hopefully tooth and claws. Fuck it. It happens now. I either die here and now, or I beat them and I can walk out of here unmolested. Like, I know this is all logical things you can think of and discuss after the fact, like being the one who's just, not in the moment and can look at stuff more calmly and cohesively, but like, still, man, like, I know in that situation you're scared, but like, and you're just like, I just want to get away from these people, and I get that, but like, at that moment you have to sit and logically think, like, okay, I can't get out. I've now seen them. That means they will be there tonight. Like, I can get 99.9% chance that they will be there tonight. I won't be able to see. If I can get them to pick that battle here, then that's what I want. Otherwise I would have to set an ambush for them. Like, if they just run back into the woods and stuff and like, okay, they're clearly not going to take the mano-a-mano approach, fine. And that means I got to get the jump on them. That means I need... It's tell they can see in the dark, and you got to hope that you can pick an angle that they won't find you at, right? You set up your tent. You make it seem like you in the tent. You ain't in the tent. You're hiding behind a tree to where you can see. And hopefully they don't decide to circle the perimeter. Hopefully they're feral enough, they're just basic enough that they're just going to do what they're going to do. You still set up the sticks and the stuff so you can hear where they're coming from. So you make sure that, set up a perimeter around where you're going to be hiding too, so that you know if like, oh shit, they're behind me. This plan didn't work. And get ready and look out there and see if you can see their figure. See if you can creep up on them. Down. One down, You become the assassin. Don't go into the tent where you know they're coming. You know they're coming. Don't box yourself in. Don't box yourself in like that. Like, get ready to ambush them. Become the hunter. You know what I mean? Like, if that's when you're gonna decide to set up your battlefield, you have to get ready to ambush them at that point. Don't become the bait. Anyways. I don't know. Anyway, so those are the two lessons we can take away from this story. Stop going in the woods without a firearm and pick your battlefield. That clearly could have that would have resolved this situation, whether in you dying or you living. That would have resolved this situation and probably would have saved many other people from potentially going missing or having to deal with these horrific events and or getting their stuff stolen. So Yeah. And also, if you're walking past strangers out in the middle of the woods, and they just like this, fucking watching you as you go, it's on at that point. Like it's on. Even if these are just average campers, they clearly have locked eyes with you. They got a problem with you. They probably ain't gonna let that slide. These probably aren't the sanest human beings at that point. If that's what they do, if they staring daggers at you, if they're just like, giving you mad mugging, it's on. Like, so if you see strangers, don't just be like, whatever, they're probably foreign. Like, nah, dude, it's on at that point. Anyways, thank you for joining me. These stories are so entertaining, yet they fill me with such rage at the stupidity of the people in these situations. But it's whatever. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you all next time.